parliament. That's what the Zambians told the parliamentarians and also presidents and governments. Don't you play with those two. But anything else in the Constitution, we have prescribed under Article 79 the process that you must take in order for you to arrive at the amendment. They gave us clear directions. Zambians have given clear direction. We urge government, therefore, to speed up the process in order to achieve this before the next election. Never in the history of our nation have the youth expressed so much interest in participating in governance. Let us capture them now while their interest is still up there. Our women folk have tried hard to participate in politics, but their presence is very minimal up to this day. Our brothers and sisters with disabilities have completely been thrown out as though they are not Zambians. MMD respects not only the women, not only the youth, and this alliance respects not only the women, not only the youth, but even our brothers and sisters with disabilities. MMD has on our team deaf person who is right behind me right there. He is a member of our National Executive Committee, and that's why we have an interpreter there interpreting for him. Why? Because these are Zambians just like us. The fact that he can't speak does not mean he doesn't have thoughts to contribute to the governance of this country. And in the coming election, we are starting a program where we are literally training women, youth, and people with disabilities to prepare to become members of parliament. Before they stand, we want to give them a training. Unlike what happened before, when people were just, taken from the streets, they have no clue about governance, and you put them in parliament. No wonder the other 10 years were almost wasted 10 years because there was no preparation of these people. So we are determined not only to have them elected, but to prepare them for the election. So that is something that I wanted to say. So the proposed amendments are meant to cure this problem. If any politician is opposed to this, then we are not in politics for the same reason. Some of the most urgent amendments include the withdrawal of candidates after having filed in which that withdrawal is going to result into the collapsing of an entire election. I'll give you an example, and the reason we are passionate that these amendments must take place. MMD has a story, and the story comes from 2021 election. Prior to that 2021 election, the Patriotic Front assaulted the MMD by massive misinformation and pumped in millions of kwacha, going around the country to say MMD has resolved that they were going to vote for Mr. Edgar Lungu. And they sent them all over the country with T-shirts written 100% PF, and at the back they wrote 100% MMD, and claimed that Nevers Mumba and his administration have endorsed Edgar Lungu. But it was only a few weeks before 2 months before the election. We couldn't fight it back because we didn't have the resources to fight that propaganda. So we decided that I was going to pull out of the election as a presidential candidate in 2021. Somehow the news got out that Nevers Mumba was going to pull out. I've never received so many phone calls in my life in a short period. The American ambassador called, the British High Commissioner called, the European ambassador called, and SADC Observer Mission Chairman called, AU called. Everybody was calling, including Fred Member, the president of Socialist Party, called, pleading, Brother Nevers, please don't do it. Don't, Brother Nevers, don't do it. You know, you're a strong voice in this country, and don't do it. And my own brother, President Hakainde Hichilema, at that time, both of us were in this thing, going to the election. He called, he said, my brother, what is going on? But I whispered to him. I said, don't worry about this issue. And I briefed him in totality. So he was at peace because I told him what our position was, that we have not really decided that we're going to do it, but we went to ECZ to help us by them asking PF to retract what they were doing. And ECZ refused. So we threatened that we're going to pull out. But when we learned that my pulling out would mean collapsing the whole election and starting all over again, and it would cost money to the taxpayer, we had to think twice. And we had to just say, let's die. We knew we were going to lose and lose badly, but it's better to keep the integrity of this election rather than become the fly that spoils the soup. We went to the election injured but angry because of what PF did. If we had pulled out, Mr. Secretary General, in that moment, we would not be here today. I can tell you, PF would have won that election. Because at that time, they had been weakened, all their tricks, we had found them out. So they were going to have time to reorganize themselves and come using a different angle to win the election. So I'm glad we did not pull out.
Thank you.
Because if we had pulled out, we would have collapsed that election. Why? Because the Constitution was wrong. It provided that if Nevers Mumba pulls out, or any candidate pulls out, the whole election collapses. And you have to start after 90 days by starting new nomination. Is this the clause we want to take into the next election? No. Zambian people, even if you are doing politics, some of these things you must think through them. Even if you hate HH, even if you hate the UPND Alliance people, these things, think through them on behalf of the Zambian people. Let me tell the Zambian people, if we don't change this, even I, as Nevers Mumba, can make HH last longer as president after this coming election. I can do that. I file in the nomination, then after a while I pull out, I collapse the election. And then we start all over again, and I file again, because there is no law that tells me I can't file twice in the next one. And then after a while, I pull out again. And nobody can accuse me because I'm within the Constitution.
Yes.
I can do that for 1 year if I want my brother HH to remain in power for longer than the Constitution stipulates. And this is why we are saying, let's be real. In any case, those of you that are saying HH wants to use this Constitution to advance himself, what kind of a politician would he be? He goes to Parliament and tells Parliament that, fellow countrymen, there's a lacuna in this Constitution. He said it. Nobody said it, but he said it. He said, fellow countrymen, there's a lacuna in this Constitution that can make a president stay longer than the Constitution stipulates. And I'm concerned because I don't want to be tempted. I don't want any other president to come and be tempted by this clause. Can we fix this? That's what HH said. And his opponents went out to town. Now we know why he's talking about lacuna. He's the lacuna himself. No, he's not the lacuna. The lacuna is that he can stay in office longer. And he told you himself. That's honesty.
Yes.
That's honesty. If he was a crooked man, he would have just shut his mouth and left that lacuna there. And then at the end, he said, Mwana Nevers, can you pull out? Pull out. After 3 months, he says, Mwana Nevers, can you pull out? I pull out again because I'm protected by the Constitution. But I file. The problem we have is that we don't read.
Yes.
Zambians don't read. A lot of Zambians, including people here, you didn't read Bill 10. You have no idea what was in it. You have not read the 13 thematic issues that we are taking to Parliament for amendment. But you are making comments on it.
They just read what it is.
Yeah, they're just making comments on it. So I ask members of Parliament that please, Member of Parliament for Mungu Central province. And I thought that I've made my point there, and I can't go beyond that. Let me now go towards concluding. Let me talk about the process itself. Parliament receives the bill after it has been gazetted. It only receives the bill after it has been gazetted for 30 days. Then it goes for first reading in Parliament. Then a Parliamentary Select Committee is put in place, pursuant to Standing Order number 209 of the National Assembly, which shall again afford the Zambian people to go back to that Select Committee and make more submissions and clearing to make sure the bill is all right. After that, then we see that the bill goes back for second and third reading. And to pass, it must have a 2/3 majority in Parliament. So the process of people putting in information exists from today right to the time that the second and third readings are being done. there's enough time for everybody to participate in this process. Some people are calling for commissions of inquiry. It's not even in the scriptures. It's not even in the Constitution that there's need for you to do that, because if you notice, it was in which was that in 72 when they did the Chona Constitution, and then in 1996 when we're doing the Mvunga Constitution, there were major developments at that time. The first time we were moving from a one-party state to a multi-party state, that's in 1996. Then the other time we were moving from a multi-party state to a one-party state. Then there was need for these review commissions. Right now, the process in Act 79 only stipulates the process that I've given to you. So let me say this. As Nevers Mumba, Honorable Mundubile, Honorable George Sanga, even Honorable Kampionga, they are not saying much about this because they know deep down their hearts that this is a very good process and these amendments are in the interest of the Zambian people and themselves as leaders in their constituencies. So all hands of government must work. Some people have said, and I heard this when they said that someone asked the Minister of Justice, but how does this process help the prices of minimum? How does this help the quality of life for Zambians? Fellow Zambians, government operates all hands at the same time. You cannot stop the Ministry of Justice from operating until agriculture produces the maize. You cannot stop Ministry of Finance doing what they're supposed to be doing until the Ministry of Livestock make sure that all animals have got the vaccine. Everything works out. The Constitution is being made, agriculture is being pursued. That is why government has 23 ministries. Each one, you need a good constitution to create an environment that is going to make it possible for you to have money to buy minimum. And these things are interconnected. So please, let's not go there. In conclusion, on October 30th, 2024, we gathered here at Anderson Kambela House and signed a memorandum of understanding between MMD and the UPND. We did for the freedoms of the Zambian people. At that event, I announced that I would not offer myself for election for president in 2026, but instead support the candidature of President HH. To be clear, this is not the first time we have done this. We did it in 2016 when we signed an electoral pact with the UPND and fielded President HH as our common candidate. Those who continue to spread falsehoods that we have just known each other now because UPND is in government are simply being malicious. We remain committed to this partnership until we win in 2026, and winning we shall. I know what a promising leader looks like. I have been in politics for 28 years, and I've been in public life for 46 years. HH is a leader. Yes, he may not be a politician, but he's a leader. Nevers Mumba is not a politician like many people say, but Nevers Mumba is a leader. That's right. Our histories, both our histories attest to this fact. He is a businessman. I am a pastor. We both achieved great things in our separate fields. So it is this success we bring to politics and governance. It is not politics that has made us. It's not politics that has made HH. It's not politics that has made Nevers Mumba. Nevers Mumba was there, he's here, whether in government or not in government, nothing changes because it's not politics that make us. It's the gift that God has placed within our lives that make us. And it's those gifts we must bring into government to benefit many Zambians. President HH has brought that gift of focus, gift of diligence. Some of you call it the gift of being boring, but I've come to understand that it's the boring leader sometimes that lead nations in difficult times. It's boring to you because he's not saying dramatic things to get you excited. He's talking programs. he's talking planning, he's talking strategy. A lot of Zambians don't like that. They like politics of, hey, Shani, that's the type of politics they like. HH will not give you that type of politics. You have to wait a long time, especially if some of us become presidents after that. You won't have those people who talk about noses coming into government ever again, because politics will now become very serious. So it is the gift of God that has placed in us that bring us into politics. When people condemned Levi Patrick Mwanawasa and called him a cabbage, I saw a focused and disciplined leader. Today, he's considered one of the best presidents Zambia has ever had. I wish to appeal to Zambians that I see very similar traits in HH. He's not playful. He's not a populist leader. He was an angel, of course.
Also have civil society organizations headed by people with legal minds. Also have government activists like Normandy that have opposed this. So when you say that you're encouraging those that are opposing to read before they can issue statements, are you telling us that only you that are in support of the amendments of the Constitution have read these 13 thematic points and understood them way better than other people?
Okay, that's the first question from Anika Unda from Lusaka Radio. Yes.
Okay, my name is Maybe Augustine Katunguru from Christian Nation Radio.
What's her name?
Maybe Augustine Katunguru from Christian Radio, Christian Nation Radio. I think I'm just trying to amplify what she has said there. I'm adding something to it, that question. As media people, we've been listening to different stakeholders. And what people are saying out there is that many of them, they are agreeing that there's need for the amendment of the Constitution, because there are a lot of lacunas. But they are aggrieved with the timing. Don't you think we are in a politically charged moment that this is a misplaced process? Thank you.
Okay. Third question, then you allow the president to answer. Yes.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, yes.
My name is Joseph Tanda, with the School Times newspaper. Mr. President, my question is, let me start from, I had a privilege working with the Manakate Constitution when I was at National Media newspapers in the 90s.
That's correct. I remember that.
The second one, I had the privilege to work with the Mungoma Constitution and the Ngunga Constitution. My question is, all these governments that have come in, they want to talk about amendment bills. For you, Mr. President, do you think the amendments are doing good for Zambia, or do we need an overhaul of the whole constitution as compared to Manakate, Mungoma Constitution, and Ngunga Constitution?
Okay. Thank you very much. So we'll pause and allow President Mumba to answer. Then we'll get to the next set of questions. It's your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Annie Kaunda asked a very important question. That it's not just politicians, that some politicians that have opposed these amendments, but also some civil society people, including the Law Association of Zambia. I have gone through myself, I've gone through the Law Association of Zambia submission. I have listened intently from my colleagues that have contributed. And I'm not saying they are all wrong in everything they're saying. That's what a democracy is all about. I said it in the beginning. Everybody should put in what they know. What I am speaking for now is what I believe to be the right path. So I'm not here to start to debate necessarily their point of view, because they have given their point of view. I'm also giving my point of view to explain to them that if we go into this election with these lacunae, it's the same people that are going to cry. That's why has HH stayed longer than the 5 years? Is that really what they want? I know there are many reasons. Some people say the best way to go is this. In governance, there are many options you can take, but you only end up choosing one. And it doesn't mean all of them are wrong. But maybe what is different is just the timing. And the other one could also be right. So for us, we welcome all the contributions from the Law Association of Zambia. I think they've raised some very pertinent points. But I also have my reservations about some of the things they talked about. For instance, I don't agree with them in saying that the timing is wrong. No, there's enough time to do this process. You cannot stop running government because of other issues that are going on the side. Because government, like I've said, is a multifaceted creature. It works in all directions at the same time. For me, I think the 13 thematic issues are so critical that if we go into this next election without dealing with them, the same Zambians are going to cry, the same opposition are going to cry, the same civil society are going to accuse HH. So I think it is better we proceed, because by proceeding, we are not really killing anybody. It has happened before, amendments have been made before, and now we think that there's lacune that needs to be dealt with. And yes, are we the only ones who understand? No, we are not saying we are the only ones who understand. I mean, everybody is speaking. And at the end of the day, and the good thing about democracy is that at the end of the day, these things, the 13 thematic ones, are not the bill. These are just an outline of what the bill is going to be. After this, Ministry of Justice is going to prepare what we call a text of the bill, which means now they're going to put it in legal language and sort of talk about the actual points as translated into a text. And that is going to be taken into a gazette for 30 days for everybody, including the Law Association of Zambia, to be able to say, we don't like this, we don't like this, we don't like that. So they have input. After that, it goes to Parliament. Your member of Parliament from your constituency is going to analyze that and put in his own input. Not once, but 3 times. Then even after the first reading, you as Anne are free to go back to the select committee and say, what I said last time, I think I've corrected myself. I think we need to go in this direction. So this document will not become HH's document or government document. It will become our document because we are speaking into it, including the Law Association of Zambia. They should go there and present their views. Mr. Katungulu, I hope I've made myself clear. Mr. Katungulu, Christian Radio, I agree with the process, but the timing is wrong. I think I've addressed myself to this. I do not think so. I think we have enough time to do this process. And if we refuse to govern because 4 politicians don't agree with each other or talk to each other or they hate each other, then the country cannot move forward. I think that the timing is okay. It's fine. Mr. Joseph Chanda, do you think we need an overhaul instead of piecemeal to the Constitution? I think for now, what is before us is to do these amendments. If you were to ask me, as president, if I were president at some point, my decision is clear of what we intend to do as MMD. This whole constitution will have to be redone. Okay, it will be all done according to our values, our views, Zambian spirit, Zambian touch, not a British-based constitution, but a Zambian-based constitution. But that is not for now. That's my vision. My vision is that we can no longer continue to use foreign instruments to govern us who are so different from the Europeans. That's why we always have problems, because this is not really reflecting us. But for now, this is what we have. We have to clean it up to save us for now. But I think that given a chance, I would change everything to make sure that it's a Zambian constitution and other countries can get ideas from us and also do the same. But that's not what is on the table.
The Secretary General would want to say something. Yeah.
The convener, I would like to add that currently we have 156 members of parliament. And out of that, 5% of 156 gives us 8 nominated members of parliament. Now, we are contemplating that there should be an increase, assuming that ECZ increases the number of members of parliament in the next life of parliament to 200. Basically, what it means is that the same formula currently used of 5% will be applied, meaning the 5% of 200. And then you might, don't create an illusion that will give us maybe 20 nominated members of parliament, 30. No, it will only increase by 2 members of parliament. So which means if it's 200 elected members of parliament, the president will only have 10 from 8. So that is the argument Roramiti was putting, which is completely offside, totally offside.
Yeah.
So you should not speak as God. God is God. No, God is supreme. When you give your view as an individual, but not as God, because it's only God that is with flawless. Thank you.
Yeah. You see, what the Secretary General has said is so important because it's a debate going on. So 8 today is how many nominations the president has. 8. If it goes to 200, the 5% of 200 is 10. So it only adds 2. But to go further than that, these amendments are proposing that we need more women and men than that. Because out of 10, the president has to get some real specialty people who may not be youth, who may not be disabled people. And though you only remain with 2 for women maybe, or 2 for youth and 1 for, so this is not the quantum of numbers we want from these 3 groups. We want more. And the representative system is the only one that can give us more than that group that the president has. And this is what this constitution is proposing. We must have more women in this in government. We must have more youth in leadership. We must have people of disabilities involved in the governance of this country. So please, some of the arguments, make sure you investigate, study it, and make sure that you satisfy yourself that the president and his team mean well in this constitution, and it will work in the interest of all of us.
Thank you very much. We have the last set of questions so that our friends can be allowed to beat the news time. We have more questions? Yes? Proceed.
My name is Usandan Dangi. I'm from African Radio. Mr. President.
Who?
Usandan Dangi Chilebe.
I like that.
I'm from African Radio. So my question is, you talked about the proportional representative system that you want to usher in. My question is, how, so that we have more youth, women and disabled people, are you going to compel certain constituencies to only adopt women, or how are you going to go about to make sure that we have the right numbers of women, disabled people, and the youth? Are you going to mandate it to say certain constituencies by default should adopt, they should be used in this particular constituency, or is it going to be mandated that the number of people that the president adopts is going to be mandated amongst this group?
Okay, thank you. Next. Okay, thank you very much. I think this should be the last question. Mr. President, you may proceed and address the question.
Yeah, I think that first of all, understand that the 10, or currently the 8 we are talking about, is not what the representative system is all about. This is a prescription that is going to be made by an act of parliament. They are going to decide which quota will be given to women, which quota will be given to youth, which quota will be given to persons. Parliament is going to prescribe that in an act. But it is definitely going to be beyond the 8 that the president has, because that one, you use it for different reasons. You know, you want a specialty in cabinet, you go and get that person and nominate him as member of parliament. So that will be put together through an act of parliament as to how the quotas are going to be done.
Sorry, sir, like where I need clarification is, let's say only when you say a certain percentage of people that are going to go to parliament don't be youth. So we go out to the constituencies. What if only the people are not youth? Not the youth themselves do not contest these elections, or the parties do not adopt their candidates? How are you going to meet those quotas? What if they do not adopt enough disabled people to meet the quotas that are going to be prescribed? How do we meet these quotas? If
Yeah.
the parties themselves do not adopt their lists, do not adopt them, and do not adopt
Yeah, well, listen, there are different countries approach it differently. It's not constituency based. You are dealing with the constituency. The quotas are not constituency based. These quotas can be a nominate. In fact, the political party themselves in South Africa, they have lists. A party like MMD will have a list of saying we go and compete in an election, but it's a totally different type of an electoral process. You go there, and when they win, then they follow the list because there's a quota that gives them that's how many members of parliament you have, and amongst those members of parliament, you need to have so many women, and so many. It's the law, so they have to find the women, they have to find the young people, and encourage them to be part of that list. So I think that we have to wait for the Act of Parliament to help us direct on how that issue is going to be done. But it's not constituency based. It's not constituency based. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe the Secretary General as well would want to add the voice, then we will be winding up. Yes, Secretary General.
Yes, like President Mumba well tabulated at the beginning, that there shall be experts who will come out with the manner with which will follow the line. They will have options. Option number one will be mixed member representation. In mixed member representation, the women, youth, the disabled will be provided for in there. There's also proportional representation. And again, in that arrangement, the experts, the legal minds will come out with a proportion to meet the interests of these three groups. There's also an express threshold. In express threshold, there shall be a provision for these three groups. So basically, it's not an answer which we have at the moment at our fingertips, but it has to be worked on, fine-tuned for the interest of the three. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, friends. And this is where we come to the end of the briefing. And before we allow the officers in front to leave, we will again close with the national anthem, after which MMD spokesperson Felix will close for us in prayer.